Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Lehman, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about states' rights and the Civil War. Okay, so one of the big things I always hear about the Civil War is that it was fought over states' rights. It wasn't fought over slavery, it was fought over states' rights. And a big part of that argument is the right to what? But it's kind of flipped around because most people go, oh, the South, the Confederacy, wanted states' rights, and the North were pushing for, I guess, not states' rights. But it's completely backwards. The South is mostly Democrats, where they support a strong centralized government, as a democratic society is one defined by you're all voting on laws, and those laws apply to everybody equally, as opposed to a republic where each individual state makes its own laws. In the United States, we are a republic, so you might have noticed that there's some laws that apply in some states that apply differently in other states. My home state of Maryland has a lot of antiquated laws about when you can buy and sell alcohol. So a lot of times you have like areas that just won't sell you alcohol on a Sunday because those states were founded in like 1640 when people were like, no, you can't sell alcohol on the Lord's Day of Rest. But either way, so in the Civil War, you have a whole bunch of states that are saying, hey, we want to have states' rights, and a whole bunch of states that are saying, we do not want to have states' rights. The states' rights crowd are the Republicans in the North. They want states to individually decide whether they want to have slavery or not. And those states in the North, those Republican states, are deciding to not have slavery, something that is in the Constitution. But the Ninth and 10th Amendments say that states are allowed to have their own individual rights and their own laws and policies as they see fit. So the North is looking at this like, well, if enough states get together, we can push a constitutional amendment. Because once there is a 3/4 majority of states that are doing a law, those states can say, okay, we want this law to be just an amendment and then just put into the Constitution to apply to everybody. So the concern of the Southern Democrats is that as the states in the North gain more and more voting power, and there are more and more states in the North than there are in the South. You can just look on a map. You know what? I'll put a map like right here so we can talk about that. But since there are more states in the North than there are in the South is worried that the northern states are going to overrule what the southern states are trying to have, which is an economy based on having slavery, which is something that's in the Constitution. So the southern states are pushing to have laws and policies that overrule the states' rights that the northern states want. A classic example of this is the Dred Scott case, where Andrew Jackson's appointed Chief Justice, Taney, said that black people are basically not really human beings and don't have rights that are applicable in this scenario, and they have been slaves for a long time, so they're just going to continue to be slaves. You know what? That whole quote is like right here. I don't have it memorized, but here's a piece of it. Is it good? Okay, there we go. So then what happens is, because that is a ruling by the Supreme Court, that is applied to all the states. So the Democrats in the South are using the federal government to overrule the states' rights of the Republicans in the North to then push slavery into the North. Because a big part of the Dred Scott case says that you can take a slave from the southern states and then take them to the North, and that doesn't automatically free them. A big part of that was that England already had that as a policy. Like if you took a slave to England, the slave is just free. So the northern states were like, yeah, if you take a slave into a state that doesn't have slavery, that slave is no longer a slave. The Dred Scott case affirms that if you take a slave into a free state, then that is still a slave, which nullifies the entire concept of having slaves anywhere, which is exactly what the Southern Democrats are trying to push. They're trying to push slavery, and they're trying to overrule the states' rights of the northern states who wanted the right to not have any more slaves. So this whole like states' rights thing, it's not something that the southern states want. It's something that the Democrats are fighting against. The Republicans want states' rights, and the Republicans during this time period are predominantly in the North. So in terms of learning this concept, it's completely flipped around. Just kind of a heads up, in case you were like, wow, history is already super confusing. Could you make it more confusing? I'm trying to undo that. Republicans generally want states to have their own individual laws based on what the people in those states want. And the Democrats usually favor a federal system where you have a larger bureaucracy. That's why when the Confederacy is formed, it's formed in the Democratic South. And when the CSA is made into a government, they have over 70,000 bureaucratic employees in this huge bloated central government because they're Democrats and that's what they want. The Democrats usually believe in a strong federal system. And Republicans are usually in the mode of like, hey, I want to have a weaker central government and a larger representative of state government. Like, let the states just handle their own business on their own. So this whole concept is completely flipped around. We can talk about other ways that it has flipped since then. It's not like we're all sitting around today going, oh, the Democrats are super into slavery. Like, so what, the Democrats in the 21st century are super into slavery? No, those policies have all changed and morphed a lot. But just in terms of this states' rights thing, the states in the North want states' rights. The states in the South want to override them. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. This is Mr. Lehman with Mr. Lehman's Homeschool History. Take care. Bye.